Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. A former Goldman Sachs executive, Raoul Pal, says that he is personally long XRP after a host on his platform, Real Vision, trashes Ripple and XRP. And I have to tell you right here at the outset, I'm actually really not even upset about this. The fact that a host on his platform is saying stuff that, from my perspective, is nonsense and actual misinformation. I will articulate why here. And in fact, Raoul Pal himself, he's always struck me as an individual that is genuinely interested in thoughtful discourse, diversity of thought, all of that, very genuinely. And I remember in late 2020, very tail end of last year, he made it very clear he was not happy with the Bitcoin maximalists that were coming after him. After he said, "Hey, I don't know a whole lot about XRP, but I'm looking into it, this or that." My gosh, boy, did they come after him on that. And I thought it was just completely nonsensical because he was just seeking to find truth. And so even before I knew that he would end up ever stating that he's personally long XRP before that, on videos on this Moon Lambeau channel, tail end of last year, I said, look, I don't know. After Raoul Pal does his research, I don't know if he's going to find that he thinks that XRP makes sense or doesn't. Maybe he'll hate it. But what I value is the fact that he's not letting some sort of maximalist viewpoint get in his way. He is not a maximalist of any coin, very clearly. He just wants to believe whatever is true. That's the way he strikes me. That is the type of person that I respect. And so I want to be clear about that at the outset. And so, yes, he does have an individual hosting on Real Vision, sharing some nonsense, but I'm not as mad about it as some people might expect. And again, I will explain why in due time. But let me first state at the outset here, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about Ripple and crypto and XRP in general, but that's all that's going on here. And so why did this all come up? Well, it's because of this. I came across this clip from Real Vision, which again it's the platform. Actually, I didn't even say. Real Vision is the platform that was founded by Raoul Pal, and it's a great platform. Actually, I check out their videos fairly regular. It's actually a really good platform, and they do have ideas from all aspects of the cryptoverse. Yes, you have Bitcoin maximalists on there, but one of the first videos I watched, because mind you, I didn't start watching Real Vision. I didn't really come across it in any sort of meaningful way until late last year. And the video that first caught my attention, it was a video where Raoul Pal was interviewing Santiago Velez, who is very knowledgeable. Santiago is very knowledgeable about XRP and Ripple and how XRP is being positioned as a bridge currency and other use cases. And I watched that and I just thought, wow. And I watched there sitting Raoul Pal just being an open, honest person, that is one of my favorite attributes in humans, when they're just open and honest. And if you don't know something, you say you don't know it. And if you don't like something, okay, that's fine, but be open and transparent about where you're coming from, this and that. And so with Raoul Pal, though, he was just genuinely interested and curious and asking excellent questions. It was a great interview. And I listened to Santiago Velez, and he really broke down in a very incredible detail, to be honest with you, because I hadn't come across Santiago until this point, but I was like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I didn't know what to expect. And I'm going to share opinions from him in the later part of this video. But anyway, that was my first encounter really with Real Vision, having started to watch it. And so there was this clip, though. And so you go from that, where there's this awesome stuff, honest communication from Santiago Velez being interviewed by Raoul Pal, to this, because they have different hosts, mind you, on Real Vision. And so here you have Brad Mills, who is, he admits he is a Bitcoin maximalist. And so he's having a discussion with two lawyers in a video here, and they're talking about the SEC versus Ripple case and their opinions on XRP and Ripple. And there is a bunch of misinformation here. But maybe I'll just say it right here. Here's the deal. Here's my perspective, and anybody that disagrees, I still respect you. I don't think less of you if you disagree with this, but I'm going to share with you my thought on this. To be honest with you, there is misinformation here, but here's the way I look at this stuff. It's like, if as long as there's a platform where it's balanced and both point of views can be made, I think that a general public that has access to all of that can reasonably make an honest determination of what makes more sense. And so having misinformation out there, to me, it makes more sense to, as long as it's balanced, it has to be balanced though. As long as there's actual balance, it makes sense to let it all out there, just whatever it is, let people try and make sense of it. Because as messy as that can be, it's worse if you censor one side. That is worse to me. Because then subjectively, who's in charge of that? Fine, if it's a public or private platform like this, and so then if you have a leaning one way, fine, okay, go ahead and do it. But that's not what this is actually. And so with Real Vision, it's about diversity of thought, and Raoul Pal makes that clear, and that is highly attractive as far as I'm concerned here. And so I personally actually don't have a problem with this video being up here as much as I feel that there are so many factual things that are incorrect in it. I just want everybody to hear the arguments from both sides, and then competent individuals to be able to listen to both sides and come to their own reasonable conclusions. Because I think that whoever has the better argument will ultimately win, and I don't think you need to censor somebody, to make sure that your side wins. If you want intellectual honesty here. And so this little clip was shared here, and Ripple employee Matt Hamilton jumped in, and he wrote, "Wow, Brad Mills, that was pretty bad. You should have just titled it, 'We love Bitcoin, we don't understand crypto or regulation.' Amazing how much misinformation was in that video. It starts with one of the lawyers saying that Bitcoin has clarity because the CFTC calls it a commodity, seemingly unaware that the whole issue is that the CFTC and SEC don't agree. E.g., the SEC has never stated Bitcoin is not a security." Then goes on to talk about initial coin offerings for some reason. XRP was not an ICO. Then one of the lawyers shows the problem very clearly by saying that the first time there was clarity was after the ICO 2017 craze, and yet Ripple is being accused over its actions before 2017. And Matt Hamilton here, nailing it. Absolutely hitting the nail on the head. Spot on. And so after that first tweet that I just shared a moment ago, XRP Samurai wrote the following. He tagged Raoul Pal, who again is the founder of Real Vision here. And he wrote, "Take this offline, please. This is just a lot of crap, to be honest. Appreciate your efforts, but this is just a lot of BS. Sorry." And Raoul Pal did respond. And he wrote, "I'm personally long XRP, but I don't mind allowing others to have their views expressed too." And then Matt Hamilton, Ripple employee, responded writing, "Expressing views is one thing. Yes, that should be encouraged, of course. But I'd watch the video and ask if that level of misinformation is really what you want associated with your brand. People watch Real Vision for honest information, not this nonsense." And I respect that position. I can absolutely understand why Matt Hamilton and XRP Samurai are saying what they're saying. And so if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. And I look, as far as the content, I watch this. It's tripe. Like, it really is, it's bad stuff here. But that I still go back to, as long as you have balanced opinions on both sides, I think reasonable people can figure the stuff out for themselves. That's because I'm looking at what I did for myself and thinking about me in late 2017. How did I come to believe what I believe? Because I was a blank slate. I watched the most strongly worded opinions negatively from the Bitcoin maxis about how XRP centralized and Ripple, it's all a scam and all this nonsense, complete crap. I took all of that in, and then I looked at the opinions from the other side, and I was like, who has the more logical, comprehensive argument? And I didn't come to a conclusion in a short period of time. I kept researching and researching and researching. And I did come to a conclusion, and it was because of open, honest discourse, including these types of arguments in this video. And yeah, the first time you hear it, you don't know if it's true or not. And you're like, you don't want to sway people the wrong way. Well, hold on, though. What's the alternative? Like, shut down open, honest discourse? Well, on a platform like this, which it seems clear to me Raoul Pal is positioning to be evenly balanced, I don't think you should. Now, if it's a platform where it's all one-sided Bitcoin maximalism, I don't like platforms like that in general. I prefer to just be a bit more balanced, but yeah, I think we're probably all, if you ever watch this video, I'll tell you what, we're probably all going to agree. It's a bunch of nonsense there, but they're just damaging their own position. Don't you see that? Or do you not think that the general public is capable of coming to reasonable conclusions on their own? Are they so incapable of thoughtful, critical thinking, that their own mental faculties, that the first thing they hear, oh my gosh, it's true, and now this is my position forever, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that's how people behave? I think higher of people. I do. I think, and fine, maybe some people, they'll hear this, or maybe it feeds into their existing bias and they go with that. But look, some people, if they're already ideologically opposed to something like this anyway, maybe they just go that direction anyway. I want ideas to battle themselves in the just in the arena of ideas. That's what I'm looking for. Now, here's the good news, though. Raoul Pal, who is again running this, he did respond to Ripple employee Matt Hamilton, and he comically did write the wrong name. He called it, again, Matt Hamilton, he called him Mark. That's a genuine accident there, but he wrote, well, Mark, I'd be delighted to have you on, long overdue. And again, this is somebody who is long XRP, but he allows thoughtful discourse. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. And then he immediately realized he made a mistake and he wrote, sorry, Matt, apologies, because he realized he called him the wrong name. And then he tagged Matt Hamilton, who was at Hammertoe. And then he wrote, no problem. I strangely get called Mark a lot. And so ultimately said, yeah, I don't know where they're at on this. I don't have an update on that. But yes, it does seem that Matt Hamilton is ultimately going to be on Real Vision, which I really look forward to. I'd say just let this get balanced out. I'm totally cool with that. And as far as like what is such misinformation to a degree that it shouldn't be on a platform, the thing about that is it is admittedly tough to have strict guidelines because it's subjective opinion, right? And so you can have guidelines, but gosh, any person that's managing those guidelines, they're still subjectively going to have to decide on their own what a gray area is. And so I'm just sharing with you my subjective opinion, and some of you will agree, some of you won't, and that's fine. We should be able to disagree and still be friends. That's what I think. Now we get into this is the real meat of it. You guys are gonna like this, I think. Comments from Santiago Velez, and again, this is the individual who was in early December, interviewed by Raoul Pal. When Raoul Pal was really at his early stages for him of getting to learn about Ripple and XRP and like what's all going on there. Santiago at that point, well versed on the topic. He made that. I was very impressed, frankly, with that interview that I saw him, and that was my first encounter with him. Is when he was interviewed by Raoul Pal. And so he identified this Real Vision interview for what it is, which is misinformation. And Santiago Velez, mind you, and I don't know if I mentioned in this video, sorry if I'm repeating myself now, but Santiago Velez also has hosted on Real Vision. In fact, he interviewed Hugo Filion, who is the CEO of Flare Networks, which is issuing the Spark token. And so here's what he had to say on this. He wrote, in response to this little video clip posted on Twitter, he wrote, my retort, I said it with a W, my retort on the comments section for those without Real Vision accounts. I encourage everyone to log into Real Vision and add your 2 cents. P.S. I don't work for Real Vision, nor am I compensated by them in any way, and I love doing interviews for them to discuss these very issues. And so I want to share with you Santiago's comments because they're thoughtful and insightful, and I like to balance things out where I can. On this channel, I do share, and you may have noticed this if you've been following me a while, I will put any argument from a Bitcoin maximalist, I will highlight it on my channel. I don't do interviews, maybe in some point in the future I will, but I will highlight all of the arguments against Ripple and against XRP, and I will address them. I'm not afraid to do that. And Santiago is certainly not afraid to take on or address anything anyway. And it's not like everything that Ripple is doing is absolutely 100% all puppies and ice cream. I don't pretend it is either. And also part of that's subjective anyway. But here's what Santiago wrote. Wow, way too premature to be having an SEC versus Ripple explained video, as most of this interview involves the one-sided claims of the SEC and not on the facts or judgments of an ongoing case. We should all be careful to derive any meaningful conclusions on the merits of those facts, on what that means for the space at large. I'm a little disappointed in seeing this level of legal speculation so trivially promoted, but perhaps there are some hidden and some not so hidden biases we can explore in my commentary. I find it interesting that the preface to this interview was a not so sly pitch for Bitcoin. I'm sorry, can someone tell me what does Bitcoin have to do with Ripple and XRP exactly? And let me pause there. This is true. It really did seem like a Bitcoin infomercial, effectively. It really did here. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, it was that, and now we have this thoughtful response. Santiago, he spent so much time clearly responding to this. People are seeing this for sure, and it is thoughtful, and it does matter. Exactly. This is what I'm talking about, though. But anyway, let me continue. The only relationship I see... I'm sorry. That was the right spot. The only relationship I see here is that XRP Ledger represents a competitor network that offers users the choice of accepting different trade-offs in how consensus is achieved. The only meaningful economic difference, in my mind, between the two networks is the distribution mechanics of the native asset, which, on closer inspection that we will get into later in this comment, readers will realize how materially alike they are in practice. For some reason, XRP as a digital asset consistently terrifies maximalists, more so than even Ethereum. And then he writes in parentheses, which I find odd, Bitcoin stands on its own merits. It doesn't need narrative defense against competitor networks, and then he ends the parentheses. That insecurity is abundantly clear with the host Brad Mills that harps on narratives like sound money, which are vague and obtuse ideological obstructions of what digital assets should represent for all people. This left a bad taste in my mouth, and I found it disappointing to see this level of impartiality in what is supposedly to be an impartial interview to get a current status of the Ripple vs. SEC case from two insightful external professionals. I also found it odd that Donna, who I've interviewed myself on the Kipu Roundtable, would try and carve out regulatory clarity for Bitcoin solely as a commodity. The SEC itself has stated in court filings in this very same case that it has not finalized any official regulatory stance on either Bitcoin or Ethereum, and those instruments could in theory be a part of investment contract under certain context. Donna even says herself, later in the interview, that is not the native assets themselves that are securities, but the way in which those assets are marketed and sold. Just like enterprises involving oranges can be made into securities, so can enterprises involving Bitcoin also be considered securities. Let that be forewarning of things to come. The truth of the matter is that even the top two digital assets in the space don't have real regulatory clarity, yet the industry feels that threshold has been met, and many promoters like MicroStrategies, Galaxy, Blockstream, Strike, Consensus, even Tesla, Elon Musk, etc., are moving forward, both promoting the underlying digital assets they are building infrastructure on. Why did Donna make a specific distinction twice that Bitcoin, not Ethereum or XRP, could ever be construed as a security in an investment offering and in the context of a discussion about Ripple the company? What? Question mark? I'm not done yet, but I gotta give a golf clap. Freaking killing it here. This is exactly spot on. So if we're gonna say that the William Hinman speech specifically that occurred in June of 2018, in which former SEC director, one of the highest ranking officials in the SEC at the time, made his case for why Ethereum was not a security. If we're going to say that that's not official policy of the SEC, because apparently the SEC doesn't have policies of any kind on crypto, if we're going to say that's the case, we think about Bitcoin here, because Bitcoin was discussed too. As a personal opinion there. But where's the official decree written in stone, chiseled into stone, that Bitcoin is not a security, or that has legal clarity of any kind? Well, it doesn't. And the truth is, that any asset, and he really nailed it here. I don't care if it's gold or Bitcoin or XRP, it can be packaged in such a way that it represents an investment contract. That's the truth of the matter here. And so to pretend like Bitcoin for some reason is the only one that can't be packaged as a security, like that doesn't make any logical sense to me. It really doesn't. Anyway, he continues. The discussion then pivots to initial coin offerings, ICOs, which in many instances were clearly securities offerings. Brad then goes on to conflate investor protections from unscrupulous ICOs to anyone that has purchased XRP and suggests that investors need to be protected, calling XRP a pre-mine. That term doesn't even have technical merit, as XRP are not mined, nor does it acknowledge that digital asset holdings and appreciation are entirely artifacts of information asymmetry on both adoption and information horizons. And I have to pause right there. Thank you, Santiago, because I got to tell you, I don't know, I hear almost, I can't even think of an individual other than myself that will bitch about the fact that there was no mining with XRP period. And so like the idea of an XRP pre-mine, it's just a complete misunderstanding. There was no mining algorithm. Like all XRP was just created at inception. And so the idea of a pre-mine, as he stated, there is no technical merit. And it doesn't matter. And on top of that, I will say additionally, however crypto gets out into the market, once it's all out in the market, it's not going to functionally matter anyway. The distribution model isn't going to matter once everything is all out there anyway. But anyway, Santiago continues. Donna defends Bitcoin as having no information. Just lost my spot. Donna defends Bitcoin as having no information asymmetry in which you could construct an impartial investment contract vis-a-vis Ripple. I'm sorry, Donna, but this is laughable. The entire Bitcoin industry is built on historical information asymmetry and narrative change from the largest holders and promoters of the asset. Just because there isn't a single promoter, as is suggested with Ripple, does not absolve the industry writ large of doing exactly what Ripple did, which is promote the merits of the application of the technology to specific use cases. And then parentheses writes, remittances, store of value, adoption, and appreciation, etc. That's absolutely correct. And I will add, and Santiago knows this as well, but there are all sorts of developers building on top of the ledger. So it's not just Ripple singing the great praises of XRP, which frankly is incredible from a technological perspective, but also other perspectives. Yeah, it's incredible. Like to me, like even if XRP as a bridge currency today is the most well-known use case for XRP, it's certainly not the only one. And I don't know if that will always be the most notable use case moving forward for XRP anyway, because it's getting adopted for so many things, and it's still such early days here. Anyway, and then it continues here. Spend about 20 minutes following the largest holders of Bitcoin on Twitter like Michael Saylor, and you'll realize what a farce that representation is. Moving on. With respect to counterparty risk of holdings, Ripple represents a huge risk to holders, as they hold 50% of the supply and they handcuffed themselves using a cryptographic escrow on a rolling 55-month unlock. This is known by XRP investors, and the market has decided that this is an acceptable risk, not to be decided by savior maximalists. Yeah, and if I could also state there, when I came into the space, and I know Bitcoin maximalists hate this, they hate how much XRP Ripple was holding at the time and how much they hold now, and I got that. Whereas me, I came into the space and I recognized that XRP itself is decentralized, and I actually valued that Ripple had the holdings that they had because I understand they didn't have special permissions over the ledger. Yes, they have a concentration of XRP, but not any sort of controlling abilities over the XRP ledger or XRP itself. And so I actually found it appealing that there's such a large stakeholder, effectively, that has an incentive to promote a healthy XRP ecosystem. And yeah, it's true. Like, you accept risk in life in any decision that you make. And Ripple could suddenly start acting in a ridiculous manner, trying to dump every time an escrow rolls around. It becomes unlocked, just dump it all. Although even then, I think that the community would respond probably by burning their holdings, which is an actual thing because it's a decentralized system. But I still think that they're going to act in a responsible manner here. And so for me, in 2017, when I was still learning, I found that as a net positive, whereas the Bitcoin maximalists find it as a net negative. And so that comes down to a subjective opinion. But like, to me, I was like, oh, yes, I actually do like this. And I get it. And people, hey, you're welcome to your own opinion. But, that's how it struck me anyway. And so anyway, he continues, this is known by XRP investors, and the market has decided this is an acceptable risk, referencing the escrows I just cited here. What is not well known is how much Ethereum consensus has, or who are the shadowy holders of Bitcoin, of which 10% of wallet addresses have 75% of all Bitcoin, with Satoshi Nakamoto being the largest holder. Don't believe me? Look for yourself. And then he provided a link to it's a BitInfo charts link. The very nature of this immature asset class is that the founders always have the most of the asset because they created it, thus are privy to the knowledge of instantiation. There is no distribution mechanics that can overcome this, not even proof of work, because the difficulty level of the network was near zero when Satoshi mined their Bitcoin in the early days. It's a very weak argument on which to predicate a securities lawsuit. Moving on. We're not done yet, but golf clap. Santiago's absolutely killing this. Nailing it. Facts on facts on facts on facts. This is pure logic, my friends. And then he writes the following. Here's a few facts that may illuminate why Ripple is seeking discovery from the SEC. Jay Clayton, former chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and lead during the period of time the lawsuit was initiated against Ripple, left his position the very day after filing the lawsuit. An extraordinarily unprecedented move for a chairman on a potentially precedent-setting case. He basically left a dead cat on Gensler's desk for move-in day to do his dirty work for him while he reaps the benefits of regulatory clarity for Bitcoin and Ethereum, although the latter is Mr. Hinman's racket. Interestingly enough, Mr. Clayton has since taken a position as an advisor at One River Digital, all the while working at Sullivan and Cromwell LLP. Provides services. Oh, duh. I'm an idiot. One River Digital. Sorry, I'm simple moon Lambo. One River Digital provides services for Bitcoin and Ethereum for wealthy investors and market makers. And then provides another link there. Mr. Clayton also advises some of the largest firms and investment banks in the world, one of which is Goldman Sachs. The firm happens to be very familiar with global banking infrastructure, including cross-border commodity swaps and even SWIFT messaging. And in early 2020, Goldman Sachs advanced a cross-border payments initiative in early of 2020 called Everledger with SAP. I find it interesting that an ownership stake in Everledger is none other than Digital Currency Group, owned by Mr. Barry Silbert of the GBTC ETHE instruments. And so those are funds within Grayscale. Well, I don't want to get too off course. Of course, the funds themselves, like if you're purchasing the funds, that's not you actually buying the underlying asset. You're just buying the fund itself. But anyway, he writes, wow, small world. Also on the board, Glenn Hutchins and Larry H. Summers. You can't make this stuff up. Goldman continued to make plays into cross-border markets, Ripple's primary use case, with their investment in none other than stablecoin issuer Circle. Let us now turn our attention to Mr. William Hinman. Mr. Hinman was the one that ruled that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, in a speech that the industry is conveniently relying on as cover for their promotional activities, despite the latter debuting in an initial coin offering in 2014. Yeah, and so let me pause there. Yes, Ethereum indeed was in an initial coin offering. And as I've cited umpteen million times on this channel, this speech by William Hinman was presented as official decree from the SEC, despite the one-line disclaimer, this is not. I get it. I understand he said that. Mr. Hinman did say that, and that is not the way it was presented. In fact, crypto media and mainstream media picked up on it the way that the SEC clearly intended, which was that this is official decree. And then William Hinman was interviewed on CNBC and in other outlets, and he used words like "we" and "where" to indicate that this is the position that we have. He and if not he and the SEC, then who? Especially considering that his fellow coworkers there helped draft this damn thing. And so clearly it was designed to be perceived as official decree, but they wanted the wiggle room of, it's not technically though. So it was beneficial for Hinman, and it was beneficial for the SEC, because they didn't want to be pigeonholed effectively. But that didn't help the industry, and it sure as hell didn't help Ripple. That's for damn sure, but what do they care? Anyway, Santiago continues. With XRP, they said its status had not been determined. When Ripple requested the internal documentation to explain how and why the SEC made its decisions, the regulator said that nothing Clayton and Hinman, as well as any SEC officials, said about Bitcoin or Ether was an official determination on whether they are securities. Do you think there are conflicts of interest in play, as Hinman left the SEC and returned to Simpson Thacher, which paid him a $1.6 million annual pension? The law firm is connected to the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. You seriously cannot make this stuff up. It will be a movie someday. Can Moon Nambo play somebody? I want to play somebody. No, somebody needs to play Moon Nambo. That would be great. Who would play Moon? Can Moon Nambo play Moon Nambo? Maybe I get in the movie too. He continues anyway. Let's also introduce for investors watching this video that two of the SEC's own commissioners recently added weight to Ripple's argument surrounding lack of clarity in their operations, essentially undermining the SEC's own lawyers. Wow. And then he provides a link there to a Finance Feeds article. Then he writes, so what do I see zooming out of this securities nonsense? Very wealthy and powerful people using the executive branch of the United States government to serve the interest of competitor networks to XRP and by extension Ripple in the name of investor protections. At the same time, the Bitcoin maximalists are being manipulated into thinking they are fighting the good fight on behalf of these manipulators with a moral righteousness that mask the equivalent of basically talking up their book. I also see that Ripple, the company, are opportunists, talking up their own book to raise the price of XRP and sell the asset to run operations. These can all be actually true at the same time. Imagine that. The hypocrisy all around is so thick it's laughable. Let me pause right there. Actually, another small golf clap. Yes, that's absolutely true. And see, that's what's appealing to me, though. And part of what he stated there is what I'm going to reference here. It's this idea. Yes, Ripple does stand to benefit. I want that to be the case because they're doing such great things for the health of the XRP ecosystem, and it's not just them. XRP itself, by nature, is not a security. I'm not saying that, of course not. That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. But I like seeing multiple players that are helping the XRP ecosystem, and Ripple happens to be a big one. Well, super. I'm all for that. And they're so transparent about this. And Santiago writes on his part, full transparency, I own XRP, invested in it, am building products on it, and acknowledge that Ripple plays an outsized role in its success as an asset and in the adoption of the technology in the greater world, but I never entered into an expectation that Ripple would make me wealthy or yield me a return of any sort, nor did I ever buy it from Ripple and sought it out on my own as a superior technology for arriving at consensus. Ding, 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 hitting the nail on the head. That's how I approached it. I think that's probably how most XRP investors approached it. My gosh, just the fact that Ripple is doing what they're doing here, yes, extremely appealing to me. And yeah, outsized interest, I acknowledge that. Cool, I'm down. Yeah. Anyway, and Santiago writes, if bought and own Bitcoin because I think he meant I bought and own Bitcoin because I know there is an army of promoters and apparently regulatory officials that will constantly talk up my book, but frankly, the technology is trash. I bought XRP because the technology is superior and there are plenty that will talk up my book. That's how network effects grow. Word of mouth. Ever heard of Tesla? And there you go. The final golf clap. Well said. That's how once I read this, I was like, I have to share this damn thing. And I had shared it on Twitter already, but my gosh. Santiago absolutely nailing it. I'm so thankful that he took the time to articulate this the way that he did. I mean, I'd say he pretty well quashed all of the nonsense that was coming from Brad Mills. And so that's why, again, my perspective, like I said, let people just duke it out. I don't want to silence anybody. And like, as long as Real Vision is truly going to give even time for both sides, you won't hear beef from me on that. You won't. But there has to be even time for both sides. Otherwise, you will hear me start to squawk a bit about that. And look, misinformation was what it is, and they're a private entity, and it's up to them to decide to what degree. Because look, it's all subjective too. Like, yes, like even on the pro Ripple and pro XRP side, let enough people speak, a certain amount of misinformation that sounds good for Ripple and XRP will get through, even if not intentional. And so you have to subjectively decide where, like, at what point has the line been crossed? And that's a subjective opinion. At what point has the line been crossed? Because on both sides, even if doing their very best to be intellectually honest, people will misspeak. They will say things unintentionally that are not true. Some people with bad intentions will say things intentionally that are not true. But still, throw it all together, like, how do you subjectively decide that? Which is why, in a general sense, not that this actually completely exists in the real world, but for me, like a world where all of the ideas are out there and then people can just see everything and figure out what makes the most sense. I want the better ideas to win. And I think people are capable of figuring that out. And I don't think censorship is the answer. So that's just where I'm at. But again, if you feel differently, I respect your opinion. And like I said, we can always be friends. And I don't think less of you if you have a different perspective than me. So I hope you don't think less of me if I happen to have a different perspective than you. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.